2026 is easily the best time to make 10k a month online, and it's the best year so far to do so. Now, the best time really would have been maybe 5 or 10 years ago. The second best time is today, and we'll talk a little bit about why that is and how you can abuse 2026 to make your first 10k a month online. Now, everything's different now, and the example that I gave to a friend yesterday was, if you remember maybe 10 years ago, and I would have been in I'm 22, I would have been 12 years old then. But if you think back then, 10 years ago, if you were to ask someone who's your favorite YouTuber, they'd have an answer whether they watch PewDiePie or Smosh or someone like that. But think about it, 10 years ago, you had a favorite YouTuber, right? If it's YouTube that we're talking about. But if you were to think about that today, if you were to try to answer that question, who's your favorite YouTuber, you probably wouldn't have an answer, right? You couldn't name 5 or 10 people that you could have back then, or people that you regularly watched. And there's a reason for that. Back then, YouTube, for example, was very monopolized, right? All these big creators were just big creators. They had like 30 million subscribers and that sort of thing. Nothing like the numbers that you see today, but they had the crazy number of subscribers, and for a small channel to kind of come up in the ranks, it was hard, right? They couldn't really do their thing. These big channels were just eating up all the views and all the attention that was on YouTube. But now, with the power of like niching down, small creators are able to monetize a very small audience and do it very well. There's creators that you'll see online with like 500 subscribers or even less than that are making over 10k a month, because they've picked a very niche avatar, very niche problem to solve for people, where they answer questions and talk about that problem or talk about that group of people's issues, that niche topic in their content, and provide an info product with that, right? That's why 2026 now, there's a rise of these micro influencers and these small channels, very niche down channels that focus on serving a very specific audience, that answer the questions, they help that audience out, and they offer an info product with that, whether it's one-to-one coaching or a community kind of approach, and they're able to sell £10,000 worth a month or $10,000 worth a month, which, when we do the maths on that, it isn't too hard. Now, if you're selling £1,000 product, obviously it only takes 10 clients a month. And really, the example that I gave to my friend yesterday, well, if we think of like over every platform, if you're really locked in, right, and you put the right effort in to make 10k a month, you should be able to do that, to get your first 10 clients. Now, it's easier said than done, but doing the math on that, right? One approach that I like to have, one like mindset that I have, is just thinking to myself, well, what would make it impossible to fail? What work would I need to do to make it impossible to reach that target? Now, for this example, if you were posting like 3 times a day, right, maybe that's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever that might be. Like if I put a shit video out today, I know for a fact it'll get like at least 1,000 views. Right? And it's not too hard to do on TikTok or Instagram Reels or something like that. And if you're posting multiple times a day, it's not necessarily hard to get like 2 or 3k views a day. And if you times that over a month, you can get between 60 and 90,000 views a month. So really, based on that, if your content actually helps people out and you're solving a niche problem, right? And again, the views don't really matter, we'll come on to that in a minute, but if you've got like 60k to 90,000 eyeballs on your content every month, and you've got good conversion systems, it's really going to be that hard to convert 10 people right out of that big audience. It's not necessarily going to be a hard thing, and that's why these small creators in 2026 are doing so well, and it's why you could do the same thing. The idea is you pick a very niche audience, right? A skill that you have, something that you can do. That's your unfair advantage. What skill do you have that you can help other people achieve? What outcome can you help other people get? So in my case, I already had a successful tutoring business, and then I was able to help teachers quit their 9-to-5s and start a successful tutoring business so they can make a full-time income away from teaching. That's an example of a very niche audience, right? Because I could easily become like the king of the space of teachers. Who comes to mind when you think of like, the main like content creator for teachers? There's not many, so think of what yours might be. And if you look online, right, there's plenty of things that people are killing it on that you wouldn't even expect. You could get people making 10k a month on video games and fishing, on pickleball, and that sort of like these ridiculous niches, right? Because they're answering very specific problems or answering very specific questions for a very specific and clearly defined audience. And that's the approach that you're supposed to have. You can become one of these micro influencers that builds a small audience online, that caters to this very specific group of people and builds a community around that. So you become the guy in that space, you become the expert in that space. And really the idea is you become top of mind. Now, a lot of those people won't want to buy from you immediately, and that's completely okay. But when the time comes when they feel like they need a coach or they need some sort of guidance on whatever problem that you're solving, you're going to be the first that comes to mind. Right, because you're very specifically targeting those people and helping that group of people. They're not going to go to a generic business coach. They're going to come to you. And that's where you want to be. That's the power of niching down and having a small audience that works. So now, like we said before, back in the day, this wasn't a thing, right? You had to spend loads on ads, right, which for a beginner you can't really do. And that's why I think info products are the best, right? The best way and the fastest way to make 10K a month in 2026, right? Because you can use your own skill and one thing that you love, right? Whatever you like, whatever you're good at, you can make 10K a month doing that thing. How amazing does that sound? I think 10, 15 years, not even that much into the future, like that far behind into the past, right? If you could think 10, 15 years ago, like back then, 10, 15 years ago, which isn't even that long ago, the way to get to 10K a month would be like to have a successful job as like a doctor or engineer or a dentist or something like that. And it would take years of training to qualify to get to that point. And then, career manipulation, working your way up the corporate ladder to get like a successful role to make like your first 10K, right? But now the game's changed a lot. We have all these resources available to us where we can just pick something that we like, right? Like build a business around something that we love, right? And build an info product around that. And the nice thing about that too is like back then as well, you would have to spend loads of money on ads to try and find that target audience. But now it's different. With content, we can create content answering like questions that group of people, that specific, like we define a clearly defined audience, like an ideal avatar, we call it, right? You identify who your dream customer is and all the problems that guy would face and what kind of things you'd want to tell him as a coach. Like let's just say you're coaching someone, for example, what kind of things would you want to tell that person? And you can make content addressing all those things, all those kind of tips that you might want to give that person, and just giving value for free and building trust with that person. So they're going to continuously see you and see you and see you because their algorithm are designed to keep them on the app. So for example, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever these platforms, like whatever platform you want to talk about, this platform, like they're billion-dollar corporations, aren't they? These businesses, right? So they want people to stay on their apps as long as possible. That's it. They want to keep people on their apps as long as possible so they can put ads in front of them, and that's how they make their money. So don't you think if you were to say you were offering like fishing help or support or some dumb shit like that, right? If you were helping someone like that, these algorithms want to put fishing videos in front of those guys, and then you're going to constantly be in their face, aren't you? Right? Whenever they go on their app or whatever app it is, right? Wherever they consume content, they're going to see you all the time. They're going to continuously see you, build trust with you, and recognize your face. When it comes to a point where you make an offer to that person, it seems like a no-brainer. You built trust already through your content, and you've established authority, and you don't need to be a big creator to do that. And there's a rise now in 2026 of all these small creators doing that exact same thing and making full-time incomes and making 10K a month plus. And it's taking them a couple of months to do so like realistically, if you were to lock in for the next few months, like 5 or 6 months, right, there's no way why, if you were to do the right things, if you were to actually work hard and dedicate yourself and become the person that makes 10K a month and do the right things, like if you were to find your ideal avatar, make content around it and work your hardest to try like convert and make these sales, there's no way why you couldn't. And it's different from the 10, 15 years ago analogy that we gave, right? We had to spend years and years and years working your way up and, polishing your skills sort of thing. Now you could be done in a couple of months, which is crazy to think, and you're missing out on this opportunity if you're not within it. So the idea is info products, there's a big rise in it now. You can just make content around a certain thing and it takes you a couple of months and not years and years of training to get to that point. And with info products, it's the best kind of way to do it, right? It's a low cost to start. You get to teach what you love, you get to do what you love and build a business around things that you actually enjoy. You don't have to pretend, you're doing like, drop shipping or e-commerce, like just doing shit you realistically, like you might lie to yourself, but you probably don't even care about. You won't wake up in the morning and look forward to do this kind of shit. But you can pick something you actually enjoy and build a business around that, because now everyone's online. Let's face it, everyone's online, right? So you've got to make content to a very defined audience and just answer what those guys are looking for and build an info product, right? A service around that, helping them and get them an outcome, right? And charge high prices for it. Now, because you've defined such a clearly defined audience and build an offer for that group of people, you'll be able to make 10K a month easy, right? You'll be able to charge high prices and get a small number of clients just to fulfill that need. Because doing the maths on it as well, even if you went for like a mid or low ticket approach, like if you were charging a monthly retainer, so an MRR we call it, right? Monthly recurring revenue, you'd get, if you were charging £200 a month, right? That's your first 10K, right? And again, getting 50 people signed up isn't as difficult as you think it will be.